Greetings, folks. We're going to be talking in this verse, and actually in a number of verses, about the real you, your soul, which is very, very different from what you experience as your human consciousness. I never knew that I had a soul that was speaking to God. Didn't know it, had no idea. But when the messages of the foot ladder of Notes Divine began, the very first message was the soul speaking to God. It's the first thing that I now discovered, that my soul inside me has a relationship and talks it up with God. And that this is actually the real me. This is the clue that something existed other than my human consciousness. I was being set up in this healing curriculum of the foot ladder of Notes Divine with the fact that the soul is a leading aspect of my true life. And here in this very first message, which occurred in October of 1998, this is 2013, you can see how long this messaging has gone on from it. Take a listen to what my soul is saying and what your soul is saying, because if you know Scripture, Jesus says to Philip, "Philip, I'm in the Father, and I'm in you, and you're in me." There's a oneness between God and ourselves, and therefore there is a oneness between all of us, so that my soul's experience is your soul's experience. My soul is one with your soul, and your soul is one with mine. That's the way we were created. When we made this human dimension, Zunko, we split out the awareness that there are this oneness, and that, of course, was a great tragedy now of the human existence, that we had no idea of our godliness or of others' godliness. We became lost. And the very first message was to recover that soul and its qualities. So I'm going to go over this message very, very slowly with you. The first message in the foot ladder of Notes Divine about the soul. Listen up, here we go. Now here's the soul talking. "O Lord," it's calling to its God. "O Lord, by thee possessed, so perfectly calmed, in patience bloomed." The soul knows that when it is possessed by God, its quality is perfect calmness, perfect peace, perfect serenity, perfect completeness, no aggravations, no worries, simply it belongs. It's just open. It's absorptive. It takes in. It doesn't repel out. It doesn't say, "Move over, brother. Watch out, sister. Just leave room for it." It doesn't happen. The soul, when it's possessed, when it's aware of the possession by God, of the oneness with God, is perfectly calmed. Perfect calm. How would you like a perfect calmness? Yeah. So perfectly calmed and in patience bloomed. Got to tell you a story before I go to the next line, because it's going to make sense to you. Have you read the prophet Isaiah? Good stuff in the prophet. I think it's around Isaiah 6 or so. Isaiah suddenly winds up in the divine dimension and sees his God, and he is not perfectly calm and in patience bloomed. He sees God and he says, "Oh my God, I'm before my God with unclean lips." That's Isaiah's experience. I'm before my God. You can see that here he is. His soul now has appeared before God, but it's got attached to it that portion of that soul which is playing around and which panics when he's before his God. Now, is God going to say to him, get a hold of your act, now cut it out, man. Look, I got to have you as a reference point, and just cut out this junk that you're doing. You're capable of it. God doesn't say that to him. God knows that this panic on Isaiah's part is his human mind, and which Isaiah hasn't got the slightest idea of what to do. He's panicked about it. Most likely feels God's going to pull the lever on him. So long, Charlie. Goodbye. He's frightened. But what God does is God solves the problem. An angel takes a burning coal and touches his lips. Now, what's it the symbol of? All right, you want to take a moment? I'll wait until you have your idea of what's the symbol. He burnt him to death because he was displeased with him. Oh, that's okay. You can have that kind of an interpretation about it, so be it. Whatever it is, your interpretation. But we know what's going to come next. And so this is what happens. God touches his lips with a burning coal to heal this feeling, this thought that Isaiah is displeasing to God. He mouthed it to himself. He formed it with his lips. He said it. God touches it with a burning coal. Done. Gone. And that's exactly what healing comes down to. It's exactly what it comes down to, that when you're in a moment of desperation and you're wondering if there are any kinds of answers, you're panicking, you are in the position for God to touch you and to clear it up by God's action upon you, because he knows the human mind is lost and can't do a darn thing about its lostness. It only teaches you how to be lost. Doesn't know how to get you out of it. God touches Isaiah's lips with a burning coal. And you know what happens next? It's such a great story. God says, who shall I send? He's got to have a prophet. A prophet goes back into the world and brings the messages from God to his aching, seriously lost children. He's got to have a messenger. And so now he says, who shall I send? And guess who raises his hand? You got it. Send me. A moment ago, he has the feeling that I'm before my God with unclean lips. A frightening state. God touches it and puts the healing, and at that point, he now asks, only at that point, who shall I send? Because remember, we've all got free will. So God says it as a question, who shall I send? Because he's giving us the chance to choose what to do. Isaiah says, send me. Send me. That's what this message is about. Now I'll pick it up. It's a good story. It's a lovely story. It's a story that just plain always touched me. Kind of I like Isaiah. O Lord, by thee possessed, so perfectly calmed, in patience bloomed. And now we hear the soul make the choice. It knows what it's missing, and it makes the choice, and here's the choice. So be this man. So be this man, willed in God possessed. That the soul knows that the will of God is to bring it the perfect calmness and the patience, and the soul states, this is what I want. You know that inside yourself there is this you who contradicts the human state and its aggravations and miseries and fears and aggressiveness and destructiveness. There is this purity that's you, and that started the messaging. It started it. That the wonderful soul, God had to have me know there was this soul in me. And that it talked, didn't know where it came from. All of a sudden this message is delivered. All I knew was my own thinking, my own reasoning, etc. But that there was a soul that was in there that was opposed to what this bit of my mind, of my soul mind, was playing with. And my soul is calling it back, calling me to make the choice to come back. That's what this message is. O Lord, by thee possessed, so perfectly calm, in patience bloomed. So be this man, willed in God possessed. Ah, nice to know, isn't it? That's you, that's me, we're one with each other. Hello, precious sweetness, precious love. We're all one with each other, and it's a oneness that is godly, that is godly. Well, as we move on into a second aspect by this, we're going to hear more of the relatedness that goes on between our soul and God.